depending on how you measure success, you always fail more than you succeed. And if you measure success by showing up, then people like those who work with PILT, but also like the people who struggle and collaborate with PILT for their own freedom. I mean, you realize that if success is showing up, then we always succeed. But if success is freedom, then you frequently fail. And I was there having failed to gain my friend's release 5, 6 times. I'm trying to put together coherent thoughts, and the struggle with putting together coherent thoughts is the reality that like you could get lost in prison and remain lost. And I think the struggle with these conversations is that we forget the people who have been lost. I agreed to come here today partly because I feel like when an organization asks me to speak, they're acknowledging that the experience of people who've been in prison should be visible, but they also acknowledging that the expertise of folks who've been in prison should be acknowledged. When he called me, he said, I hate to bother you. Can you imagine that you've been in prison for 20 years and you call somebody that's trying to help you get out and you say to them, I hate to bother you. The fundraiser tonight is $5,000. And I hope we make that goal tonight. And an effort to do my bit to make that goal, I donated $500. I didn't do that well in math, but I think that's like 10%. And I'm gonna go play the lotto tonight. And if I hit the number, I'm gonna donate all of the proceedings to PILT. Actually, that is not a contract. Do not believe that I'm gonna do that if I hit it for $1 million. But if I hit it for $1 million, I'm gonna donate a lot to PILT. And since I don't gamble, I probably don't play the lottery. But really what I want to say as I close out is I didn't expect to be thinking about prison, 24 years after I committed my crime. My judge, when he sentenced me, he said, I'm under no illusion that sending you to prison will help, but you could get something out of it if you want. I think the thing that I've gotten out of it that I find moves me to this day is that, prison operates like a kind of gravity on my life. And in some ways it is profoundly depressing. In some ways it is like deeply disappointing that sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night because I'm in prison and I don't like the direction my dream is heading. But in some ways, I realized that most of us don't get a chance to care that much about people who we don't get to fully know. And I have relationships that crystallized when I was a child that still matter now. And you just try to make good on the promise. And the promise is just that you care. And interestingly enough, I think they don't teach you that when they give you a state number, that your duty and your responsibility is to show up and care about somebody else. But in the testimonies of today, I think what I heard was that as an organization, PILT shows up and cares. I heard that the staff is a group of people who show up and care. And I told somebody, I try not to sound holier than thou. Like I try not to sound like it's some profound thing that I'm doing with my own life, because the truth is nobody knows my lawyer's name. And he died, before I went to law school. He passed away. And nobody knows the teachers who, helped me get a GED when I was in prison. Nobody knows the lawyers who, helped me represent friends of mine before I had a license. Nobody even knows the name of the reporters who wrote the stories about friends of mine and helped me make the argument for them to have a lawyer. And most of us might not know the staff at PILT, but the people who do know them are the people who they touch and the people who they work with. And often we don't get to say thank you because we meet you in a time when we're angry. We meet you in a time when we're desperate. We meet you in a time when we don't know how to show up for ourselves, let alone how to acknowledge that you're showing up for us. And so I guess I'll end with saying thank you. It's really hard to commit to working with people who may be guilty. It's really hard to commit to working with people who, may be struggling with anger and everything else. And it's really hard to commit to working with people who others have forgotten. But you guys have committed to doing that. And so I thank you for it. And I thank everybody who's listening.